Hi, everyone, and welcome to this demo of ThreatGEN AutoTableTop. We're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to click on our scenario settings. Now, we could choose to upload a scenario file or drag and drop, but we're going to go ahead instead. We're going to go and do this manually. Now, we're going to go ahead and say, surprise me here, but you could enter in any level of detail, but you can put in named threats. You can provide a lot of detail, be very specific, or you can leave it blank and it will give you a default scenario, usually just kind of random. But we'll talk later about adding a lot more detail in here and what types of details you can provide. But you can be as high level or as detailed as you want. All right, so for the company, again, you can provide as much detail or be as high level as you want. So here, we're going to be a small manufacturing plant, and we'll just leave it at that. So for the IT staff here, now we're going to let it play the role of the IT staff. We're going to be the OT staff. So we can have it choose and it play the role. But again, you can be as detailed or as high level as you want. We're going to go ahead and specify that this exercise is for our OT staff. That way we can have it play the role of everything outside of our OT staff. All right, we'll do the same thing here for the cybersecurity staff. We're going to have it play the role of the cybersecurity staff. As well as the CISO. And we'll let it know that we are playing the role of the OT staff. And you can get as granular as you want, as in you can literally list out all your staff and roles and names, and it'll use those in the exercise. All right, for the network environment, we'll just go with a well-segmented business network. And our OT network is somewhat segmented, marginally segmented. We'll go with partially segmented, but probably not as good. Now, you can go as detailed as you want, listing out assets and IP addresses and everything, and it'll take that into account. But for now, for demo purposes, we're just going to be very high level and let it make these assumptions. All right, for injects, now you can actually list specific injects if you're the facilitator, but if we want it to create them all, we'll just say you choose. And typically we want to try to make sure that, yeah, let's just go ahead and do this. Let's go with at least 2 and see what it does there. But you can tell it to list as many as you want, or you can do an entire list. Now you can also give an entire list and do it by number. And if you're the facilitator, and you can tell it, hey, run inject 1, run inject 2, and it'll run the appropriate inject for whatever number is listed there. If you don't list anything, then it will create injects as appropriate. So for the win condition, now this is one that I had here for a prior exercise, but usually I just want to make sure that we're adhering with the identify. We don't need triage here. This was for a SOC exercise that I was running, but normally I just use the win condition. You can provide any specificity you want to include, like, hey, you have to get this done by so many turns, so many actions. Usually it's just making sure that we adhere to the identify, classify, isolate, respond, recover, eradicate, respond, recover, resume operations, or whatever. But normally, if you just leave it blank here, then that's what it goes with. It'll default. Same thing with the loss condition. You can put whatever you want, but if you leave it blank, it already knows the proper procedures of an incident response in a tabletop exercise. So you can leave anything blank here that you want, and it will automatically go with some defaults. So if you want it to be completely random, just leave everything blank and it'll go with a completely random exercise. All right, now we could export our settings here for use for later, but we're not really going to do anything too special here, so we'll just leave that for now. So we'll just save this and we'll click Start New Exercise, and here we go. Now, sometimes whenever you have a lot of information being generated, it can take a little bit to generate that. Here in this case, you can see that we have the spinning wheel there, and that indicates that, you know, this has taken all of our settings and everything that we've given it, and it's taken into account. It's building the scenario, it's putting everything together. So it takes a little bit to do that. It'll generate that. And anytime you have anything that requires a large generation of information, it takes a while. Oh, there we go. All right, we're going to clean this up a little bit, make it easier to get rid of the stuff on the side. So here we go. Welcome to today's incident response tabletop exercise. I'm your facilitator, and I'll be guiding you through a scenario specifically tailored for the operational technology or OT staff of your small manufacturing plant. Your role is to respond as a real-world situation unfolds, making strategic decisions and taking practical actions as a team. It's essential to deliberate as a group, pondering over the possibilities and potential steps you can take. I am here not only to steer the exercise, but also to offer advice as you ask for it. Now, you can ask for advice, but it will deduct score and points if that's important to you during the exercise. All right, so you are part of the OT team at a small manufacturing plant that specializes in producing high-precision electronic components. The plant operates with a mixed environment of legacy and modern industrial control system, or ICS, including programmable logic controllers, or PLCs, of course, and human machine interfaces, or HMIs, which are essential for the manufacturing process. All right, so your IT staff, your IT department, which I'll be role-playing, and by I, it means it, the AI facilitator, comprises a network administrator, a system engineer, and an IT support technician. The cybersecurity staff, similarly, I, again, the facilitator, the AI, will be acting as the cybersecurity staff, which includes a cybersecurity analyst and the CISO, who oversees both IT and OT cybersecurity. All right, so starting the scenario. It's a typical workday morning when suddenly several operators on the plant floor report that multiple HMIs have started to malfunction, displaying intermittent connectivity issues and erratic behavior. One of the PLCs controlling a critical part of the assembly line has also ceased to respond to automated commands and has caused a temporary halt in production. Your immediate task as the OT team with an OT cybersecurity person on board is to address the situation, contain any potential threat, and restore normal operations. Remember, your actions should align with the identify, classify, isolate, eradicate, and recover phases of incident response. See, you can see there that we left it default, and it automatically knows about the actions to take in an incident response. So here we'll say, we'll go ahead and send a process engineer out to the suspect PLC, the process, the suspect PLC, and run the process. And you know what? This is a manufacturer. So there's a lot of assumptions that can be made here. Since we didn't give it any detail, I'm going to assume, since this is a small manufacturing plant, that I'm going to say we can't run manual. It's like an automatic arm or I don't know. It's something that can't be run manual. So we're not going to be able to run the manufacturing part of this manually. So instead, we'll just have them inspect the PLC, and the HMI or any HMIs. Let's see, we'll contact the IT and cybersecurity staff. And remember, it's running that. It's running the IT and cybersecurity staff. We'll have them check the logs from the HMIs and on the SIM and the EDR for suspicious activity. And we'll go with that. All right, so action 1, inspection of PLCs and HMIs. The process engineer arrives at the location of the suspect PLC and inspects both the physical condition of the equipment and the HMIs. Upon initial inspection, the engineer does not find any physical anomalies or damage. The engineer also verifies that all cables are securely connected and there are no signs of tampering. Action 2. So the IT and the cybersecurity staff immediately begin to review the logs from the affected HMIs. They find nothing out of the ordinary in the HMI logs themselves, but an unusual number of failed login attempts have been flagged, originated from an unrecognizable IP address within the internal network. The cybersecurity staff consults the SIM system and notes an alert raised about an anomalous spike in network traffic, pointing out to potential command and control communication patterns typically associated with malware. The EDR system logs are also reviewed. While no definitive malware signatures are detected, several alerts about unauthorized changes to the system files on the HMI workstations have been raised. So, so unauthorized changes to system files on the HMI. Based on these discoveries, your team identifies that there might be a cybersecurity incident in progress that requires further investigation. The next step would involve classifying the severity of the incident and taking appropriate steps to isolate the affected systems. What would you like to do next? This is where we would discuss as a team to decide the appropriate actions. All right, so for safety's sake, we're going to shut down the process. Now, that may or may not be a good idea in real life, but for now, we're just going to say we're going to shut down plant operations. While we isolate the HMIs. We're going to identify the computer where the failed login attempts are coming from. And we're going to isolate that computer. And we'll also discuss the potential impacts because it actually let us know that the next step would involve classifying. So we're going to discuss the impact and severity with the plant manager, the engineers, and any stakeholders to classify the incident, determine the severity. All right, we'll go with that. All right, so action 3, shut down operations and isolate HMI. So you've made the decision to prioritize safety and shut down plant operations. The OT team proceeds with the shutdown process following established safety protocols, ensuring that all machines are powered down in a controlled manner to prevent damage for safety incidents. That's awesome. The HMIs are then isolated from the network to prevent any potential spread of the issue. So identify and isolate the computer with failed login attempts. The IT staff conducts an investigation to locate the source of the failed login attempts using the network management tools. They successfully identify a workstation used by a design engineer as the source of the suspicious activity. The IT team immediately isolates this computer from the network to contain any potential threat. Now, also, I should point out that a lot of assumptions are being made by the AI, and the AI is taking actions. That's because we told it that we want it to play the part of those certain roles. Now, if we tell it that we're going to make all decisions and we're the team doing everything, then you would actually have to make each and every decision like this very granularly, and there will be no assumptions made on your part. You would actually have to tell it what you're doing, what tools you're using, etc. You can be as high level or as detailed and in the trenches as you want. All right, action 5, discussing potential impact and classify severity. In conjunction with the plant manager and key engineering stakeholders, you gather to discuss the implications of the incident. The group acknowledges the seriousness of a possible cyber attack, understanding that it has the potential to affect not only the integrity of production data, but also the safety of the operations. Upon considering factors such as the disruption to production, potential data compromise, and system integrity, the incident is classified as severe. This classification will guide the urgency and the nature of your response. With the critical systems isolated and the incident classified, the next phase will be to analyze the affected systems to understand the nature of the incident and start developing a strategy for eradication and recovery. Would you like to proceed with conducting a forensic analysis on the isolated systems? Okay, so at this point, we're going to formally declare an incident and notify all upper management if we haven't already. Okay. Have the IT department check to see if we have known clean backups. Now I just say known clean backups just because it may, in real life, it may be hard to know whether or not your backups are clean or not, but just for the sake of the exercise here, I want to ensure that we're checking to see if they're clean, so it doesn't throw a dirty a dirty backup inject at me just for this particular exercise, since I don't want this to go on forever. I also, let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to say that we don't have the expertise to do a forensic analysis in our small environment. So I'm just going to ask it a question. Do we have now I could assume that I could tell it we have a DFIR vendor on contract or on retainer, but here I'm just going to ask it. There we go. All right, so you and the OT cybersecurity person formally declare a cybersecurity incident and swiftly notify upper management, who are briefed on the situation's severity and the steps taken so far to contain the threat. Upper management is informed of the potential impact, including operational downtime and possible data integrity issues. The IT staff reviews the backup systems and confirms that there is a set of backups that are believed to be clean. So it even knows, hey, you may or may not be, as they predate the first sign of suspicious activity by several weeks. However, these backups have not yet been tested for integrity and freedom from compromised data. See? At this time, you find out from the cybersecurity analyst that there is no digital forensics and incident response vendor on retainer. As a result, upper management must quickly decide whether to engage a DFIR service provider on an emergency basis, which could incur significant costs and lead times or rely on in-house capabilities. Given the circumstances, you need to develop a plan for the eradication and recovery phases of the incident. Decisions must also be made regarding the engagement of external resources. Okay, so we're going to do this. Let's have the IT team and cybersecurity team work on DFIR the best they can while we reach out to a DFIR firm. Who do you recommend we contact? The IT team and cybersecurity staff prepare to perform an initial in-house digital forensics and incident response analysis. They will begin collecting relevant data such as logs, disk images, and memory dumps from the isolated systems. That's pretty advanced for a small manufacturing firm, but hey, we'll go with it here. And maintaining proper chain of custody. So yeah, it's making a lot of assumptions that our IT staff and our cybersecurity staff are also digital forensics specialties. And so, but in real life, that probably wouldn't happen with a small firm, but we'll just go with it for now. While your internal teams start their preliminary investigation, you decide to reach out to a DFIR firm for professional assistance. Among the prominent players in the industry, firms like Mandiant, CrowdStrike Services, or FireEye are typically recommended for their expertise in dealing with such incidents. The choice would depend on factors such as availability, response time, and budget constraints. It looks like it's snubbed Dragos there. I guarantee you that is not on purpose. That was it just for some reason just did not mention Dragos. I have done these before where it will specify, Dragos. It'll specify a number of other firms. All right, given the urgency of the situation, I recommend reaching out to one of these firms and inquiring about immediate availability. And all right, let's see. Let's just tell it instead of one of these. I don't have any preference over any of these, but I'm just, since it's snubbed Dragos, I'm actually going to, since it, some of these are I'm sure they're all great. I haven't used every single one of these. I have friends that work at all these, but let's just go ahead and see if it'll give us Dragos, even though it snubbed them. Barricade Cyber Solutions is another one that is not specific to OT, but it's a smaller firm and not as many people know about Barricade, but it actually recommended Barricade at one time. All right. You decide to reach out to Dragos, a cybersecurity firm that specializes in ICS OT. They are known for their expertise in the energy sector, manufacturing, and critical infrastructure. Your CISO takes the initiative to contact Dragos and inquires about emergency services. Dragos responds that they have a rapid response team available and provide a quote for their engagement. The quote is reviewed immediately by upper management, who authorize the expenditure given the severity of the incident and the potential risk to operational continuity. Now, what's interesting here is that since it was classified as severe, it played the role of the CISO and upper management, and they approved it. Maybe if we didn't classify that, if we didn't go through it and identify that this is severe, it may have actually role-played it out that we didn't get approved for an emergency budget. So again, it's making sure that we follow all the proper steps in our IR plan. Dragos indicates that their team can start remote preliminary assessments almost immediately while they prepare to dispatch field experts to your location if needed. The collaboration between your in-house teams and Dragos specialists begins with the sharing of initial findings and preservation of digital evidence collected so far. With the DFIR team firm engaged, would you like to continue with any specific eradication measures internally, or focus on preparing the ground for Dragos? So here's what I just want to show you real quick. So show me the log output in log format of the event. I'll be redundant here, but of the event logs of the sorry, I'm not very good grammar here, but I'm just kind of thinking on the fly. The event logs of the computer where the suspicious activity came from. All right, so here's some event log output just to show you some examples of how you can actually review logs, and it will simulate some very detailed activities, some very detailed tasks within the tabletop. So as the facilitator, I will provide a simulated log output from the event logs of the design engineer's workstation. where the suspected suspicious activity originated. Keep in mind that in a real world situation, your IT or cybersecurity staff would need to extract and review these logs. So it's very real world safety oriented, saying that, look, I'll show you a simulation, but I mean, it was basically reminding me, you're the OT guy, your IT staff and your cybersecurity staff would need to review these. But so it's pretty interesting, the level of detail that it shows. Oh, look at that. So it's, anyway, we're not really going to go through this, but it's just very interesting on the level of detail that you can get from the logs. All right. We're just going to say, I'm sure the cyber staff has this, but there you go. Now we could continue to play this out. I will go ahead and fast forward to, you can kind of control the flow here. We'll just say fast forward to when Dragos gets here. Now I'm kind of copping out here and cheating a little bit by saying, you know what, I'm just going to have the DFIR folks come in and just figure the rest out for me, which is, that may or may not be what you do as a company, and maybe that is your next step. But for here, just so we don't run this demo out to eternity, I'm going to go ahead and have the DFIR team come on site. Before Dragos arrival, the cybersecurity staff receives a log output from the infected computer and begins examining the details. They collaborate with Dragos remote analysts, updating them with informative insights and preparing for a comprehensive on-site investigation. Now, what's interesting is that if you actually wanted to test the capabilities of your own internal DFIR team, you could actually structure the scenario that way, and you can have it require that you give the facilitator, the AI, each and every step that you are doing for the DFIR. So again, we're doing this pretty high level and letting it run a lot of the assumptions. But if we get down into the weeds, it would actually give us only the information that we need to make decisions, and we have to tell it everything that we're doing. All right, so after some time, Dragos Rapid Response Team has arrived at your manufacturing plant. With a combination of remote and on-site resources, they are ready to begin a deep forensics analysis of the incident. They start with a briefing to gain situational awareness, reviewing the steps your teams have taken thus far and examined the preserved evidence. The Dragos team takes over the forensic analysis process with precision, using specialized tools to dive deeper into the affected systems. They also begin a thorough network analysis to try and detect any lateral movement or other compromised systems within the plant's network. Now, that's not something that I directed it to do. Normally, once we get everything shut down, we would want to have our IT staff and our cybersecurity staff check for lateral movement. I didn't tell it to do that, but it went ahead and had Dragos do that. So again, it's if we tell it to take control of certain actions, or certain teams, as you can see, it will do that. Otherwise, in a more detailed exercise, I would have to specify, okay, we're going to check for lateral movement. How are you going to do that? Okay, we're going to be doing this. Through their assessment, they are tasked to discover the full scope of the incident, identify the root cause, establish the timeline of events, and aid in eradicating the threat to enable a safe and controlled recovery. At this point in the scenario, we will assume that Dragos is working effectively and you are supporting their efforts. The next steps will hinge on their findings and the strategies both your in-house teams and Dragos develop for eradication and recovery. For now, do you have any specific instructions for your team? Okay. So we need to get to restore the affected systems from the backups. Now, it hasn't thrown us an inject yet, so and it is because I am kind of rushing through this scenario. Let's see. from the backups. We need to get rid of the system of the backups by inspecting and testing the backups to be they are clean. So we'll just tell it that for now. All right, the IT team is instructed to initiate the process of inspecting and testing the backups that have been identified as potentially clean prior to any restoration attempts. They start by retrieving the set of backups, performing integrity checks, conducting malware scans, and it goes through and actually tells you they're done in a clean environment because it's running the IT team. So it's already making these assumptions. If we were running as the IT team, we would have to tell it all these things. After thorough testing, if the backups are deemed clean and intact, your team will then prepare a restoration plan that includes my team being the OT team. So there we go. Boom, 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 boom. While the IT team is busy validating Drago's investigating. So at this point, it has not given us an inject. And that's because, I mean, we're only on turn 13, action 13. Typically the injects happen like when you try to do something, and because we're going pretty high level, so it's not really throwing anything at us. So if I was the facilitator, you know, and I'm not happy with the way it's going, maybe I'm the human facilitator, I could say, run an inject. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. So sudden communication issue with Drago's remote team. As your in-house IT team proceeds with the rigorous testing of backups, an unexpected communication issue arises. The secure video conferencing system using to coordinate with Drago's remote experts encounters a service disruption due to a widespread internet outage affecting your area. The disruption is estimated to last several hours, hindering real-time collaboration. The Drago's on-site team could still proceed with their forensic analysis, but this will slow down the process since they must now operate semi-autonomously until communications are restored. They will document their findings and prepare to share them as soon as the service returns. Your team must decide how to adapt to the situation. Do you wish to continue with internal efforts? Utilize alternative communication, focus on other areas. You know what? Let's go with number one. Now, it won't always give you choices. Sometimes it's more free-flowing. But in this case, because it is an inject, it just kind of gave us a multiple choice. Your team desires to proceed with the plans for testing and validating the backups, as well as other internal incident response efforts, while waiting for the restoration of the video conferencing system and internet communications. The on-site Drago's team works independently and compiles their findings for later discussion. Meanwhile, your IT team successfully establishes an isolated environment and begins in-depth testing of the backups. They check for integrity and signs of compromise, utilizing antivirus scans and reviewing system logs within the backups to ensure they don't reintroduce the threat into the environment. The OT team also utilizes this time to review and, if required, update the restoration and recovery procedures to ensure a swift resumption of operations once Dragos confirms that it's safe to proceed. After a few hours, the communication issues are resolved and the secure video conferencing system is back online. The Dragos team immediately coordinates with your in-house teams to exchange findings and confirm the next steps. Would you like to hear the outcome of the backup testing and review the findings? Yes, yes. All right, so again, we're moving very high level, we're moving very quickly, and there's a lot of assumptions being made, but the ultimate purpose of this demo is to really just kind of give you an overview of the capabilities. Again, you can go as deep and as granular with what you're required to give the system as you want. So yes, let's hear the results of the backup tests and the Dragos findings. All right, so the outcome of the backup testing. The backup testing conducted by the IT team concludes with promising results. The backups have been found to be clean. There are no signs of malware in the files, and the integrity checks verify that the data is consistent with expected hashes. The in-house testing environment did not trigger any indicators of compromise when the systems were brought online using these backups. Okay, so it made the assumption that I was going to go ahead and do the recovery with the backups. The Dragos team provides a detailed report based on their forensics analysis. Here are the key findings. The initial infection vector was identified as a phishing email that was sent to several employees, including the design engineer whose workstation showed suspicious activity. A malicious attachment in the email masquerading as an invoice was executed by the user, which led to the download of ransomware onto the workstation. Oh, so it was ransomware. I guess we never got the ransomware notification. One of the things I would point out here is that what the heck was that engineer doing using email on his engineering workstation in the first place? We'll have a talk with that person. The ransomware began to encrypt files on the local machine and attempted to spread laterally to other systems on the network. However, the quick isolation of the infected workstation by the cybersecurity team prevented a full-blown ransomware outbreak. That's why. Okay. The Dragos team detected indicators of compromise consistent with a known ransomware family. Based on these IOCs, Dragos has updated your network intrusion detection systems with the latest signatures to monitor for similar patterns. The engagement of the ransomware's command and control servers from the compromised workstation was identified, but had been disrupted by your swift response in isolating the affected systems. Dragos recommends specific improvements to your email security gateway settings to better identify and filter similar phishing attempts in the future, and advises additional training for staff in recognizing such threats, of course. Now that you have confirmed that the backups are clean and have Dragos, the path forward includes eradicating the ransomware from the affected systems, restoring operations from backups, and implementing the recommended security improvements to prevent future incidents, which in the next step. Okay. And we could go through these individually, talking as a team on how to do this. For demo purposes, I'm just going to fast track all that. I'm just going to go ahead and say, proceed with eradicating the ransomware. Now, of course, it's going to make assumptions. Again, we could tell it to make us tell it exactly how we're going to do these things. Since we're high level here, we're saying, okay, just do that. Ransomware, the ransomware, restore all operations and create a plan to implement the recommended improvements. Now, finally, you know what? I think that should end the exercise right there. It'll probably end the exercise. If not, I'll just tell it to color me up for you Las Vegas fans. All right. So there we have eradicating the ransomware, restoring from backups. It does all of this stuff, implementing the improvements. Now it's asking us, would you like to, I'm not going to read through all of this. Let's go ahead and conclude the exercise. All right, here we go. So we've got an 85 out of 100. Here's our executive summary. I'm not going to read through all of this for brevity's sake. There's your analysis summary. There's a cost breakdown of how much we had to spend and how much it cost us. Now, it's probably, so it's not going to tell us about any potential contractual or regulatory fines. And that wasn't too long. So again, these are just estimates. I mean, this is just we can talk later about, how these calculations are done, and you can even improve the accuracy of this, but this is just giving you an estimated, based on what information we didn't give it. This was very high level. It was making a lot of assumptions, but either way, if you were to give it more detailed information, you would see a more accurate cost breakdown. So successful actions, list for areas of improvement. And for the most part, these are all going to be specific to the incident response. And the exercise is not really supposed to take into account anything that is outside of the exercise that's not pertaining to incident response, such as like, oh, we didn't have a good training and awareness program. It's not supposed to take that into account. And then also, if you have your own IR plan, we do have on the roadmap to implement your own IR plan, and it'll grade you based on your own IR plan and make recommendations for improvements of your IR plan. So This does tell us that if you have any clarifying questions or need further analysis on specific aspects, you have up to 5 questions. You can go ahead and ask it. You can clarify, you can ask questions about the analysis and have a conversation with it. But all right, and one last thing we want to do is open our menu back up and our current exercise. We can download the exercise transcript. Just click on that. It will download it. You'll see it over here. You can click on that and open it up. And there is our exercise transcript to include the report and analysis. And that's it for now. For now, we're going to go in this exercise, in this demo. Again, this was just a very high level, quick and dirty version. There were a lot of assumptions made. The more details that you provide it in the settings, then the more detailed outcomes and the more detailed requirements it will give you that you have to provide. And again, you can make this exercise you can make it more detailed for a SOC team, or you can make it higher level for leadership and for management. And so, play around with it. It's amazing. All the different aspects of what you can do, all the different things you can tell it to give you, like the log analysis, the scenarios it can create. Your imagination really is the limit here in terms of how you can have it direct exercises and what scenarios and injects you can throw at you. So have fun with it, play around with it, and we'd love to hear feedback. Thanks and take care.